first-year application as well as the Common App for transfer, the links directly to our support channels, our Solution Center, the Help Center, are directly in the application. Our Solution Centers are available 24/7, 365. So if a student clicks on any, of the links to the to help, they will then first they'll see a whole knowledge base of FAQs, but there are also their abilities to either submit a help ticket or to connect with someone via live chat. And the response time is usually under 15 minutes. So that is definitely, the easiest way. There are also websites, again, that a student can go directly to. I think it would be a long one for me to say all of the different websites.
Right.
But for the first-year applicants, another piece, and I'll happily share the email, it's just app support at commonapp.net. And that email, again, creates a help ticket that can then get directly to someone in our Solution Center. And so, I know that there is this fear of not having the phone number, but I think once students realize that they can get as quick of responses either through email or through live chat, they then, I think, know that we still are here to help support them through this process.
No, I think it's great. And I love how even though you have so many articles to help students filling out the Common Application to address so many questions, you also have that button just says contact support, and like you said, it's 24/7, so they get timely responses, and especially with this generation, sometimes I think they're more fearful of picking up the phone, and a live chat is sometimes a lot easier for them. So, which is great that you're doing that. So, what are some helpful tips can you give to students listening to this podcast who decide to work on the Common App? What are some best, strategies for them when they begin doing this process?
Yep. One is, take advantage of account rollover. So if a student is in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, to just get exposure to the application, create that account knowing that they can roll it over from year to year. Part of that then, and even if we're talking with now current seniors, filling out the activity section. It's always, a lot easier to fill that out along the way than to try and, fill it out as a senior and trying to look back in time to what did I do in 9th grade, what did I do in 10th grade. And, it's not natural for a student to think, okay, how many hours per week, did I do this activity? So again, just getting their activities list pulled together and then looking at how they're asked to respond to those questions. Other tips when adding, their high school, thinking or making sure that they're adding the correct high school. It's so important that they pick the right school. Sometimes a student can put a part of the name of their high school, and there may be 10 or 20 other high schools across the U.S. or across the globe that have a similar part, and they may pick the wrong high school. And that's just, one of the things I don't think students really recognize is that the high school they pick lets the application know whether or not the student is attending a school that uses Naviance or not. So for the recommendation process, it really makes a difference, and they need to pick the right high school.
Yeah, so a lot of mistakes can happen very easily. Yeah,
and we, proofreading, obviously, asking for help. We did build in last year the advisor role, which allows students to invite someone who's helping them with the process to track their progress with completing the application, as well as the ability to view a PDF of the student's application. So if a student, wants to have someone kind of follow them with this process and again, help with proofreading, using the advisor role is really a great tool.
No, that's really important because, there are always going to be those procrastinators who are going to do those all-nighters, and that's when those big mistakes can happen easily, not realizing like, oh, I entered the wrong school, or, oh, I have a couple more questions I have to answer wasn't prepared for.
Yep.
Now, the nice thing, Common App does not charge any additional fee for students for using your guys' services, and you work really closely with each of the colleges and for counselors to provide what's known as fee waivers to applications. Could you explain to our listeners what fee waivers are and how does this work?
Sure. Well, first, many of our member institutions do not even charge an application fee. So we have over 350 schools using the Common App that don't have an application fee, regardless of a student's financial need. For students that do feel that the application fee would be a barrier for them applying to college, there is a section within the Common App called the Common App Fee Waiver. All students see that section, and basically there are just some qualifying questions saying how a student believes that they might qualify for a fee waiver. They can select any of those indicators. Some of those are free and reduced lunch, receiving a fee waiver for the SAT or ACT, and even special circumstances where the student may feel, they may not have qualified for another fee waiver, but there's some extenuating situation happening with their family, and they can get a letter, a supporting letter from a counselor or someone in the community. They can also select that as an option. They request it one time within the Common App part of the application, and then it automatically waives their application fee for any of our members.
Oh, that's fantastic, right? And then usually someone from the school will need to just acknowledge that they did approve the fee waiver. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is for the first year application, there is the verification from the high school counselor. For the transfer application, it is based solely on how the student responds.
Okay, so self-reported.
Verification.
Yeah, so money should not be an issue for students if they want to consider applying for colleges if there's that need, that demonstrated need.
Yep.
Yeah, great. And there isn't also a maximum amount of colleges that students can apply to at one time using the Common App. What is that number and why is there a limit?
Yeah, so in the online version of the Common Application, students are limited to adding up to 20 colleges. That is something that our membership, discusses and has picked that number. The reality is what we see each year. This past year, the average number of schools that a student applied to using the Common App was 5. The number that are using the full 20 is less than 1%. So I think that the number that's in there is there to help students with exploring their options, not trying to limit students, and we have not seen there to be a need to increase that number. Now, certainly if there was a student who wanted to apply to more than 20 schools, they do have the ability to contact an individual college where they could get a paper version of the application. But again, in terms of what we see on our side, students are not using the full 20, even though the system caps them there.
Right, because if students are really doing their homework, like using net price calculator, researching the school, talking to alumni, there's so many other resources that's also connected through Common App as resources. They could have more of a balance list. So there's not that real need to apply to so many out there. And for Common App, what are your guys' futuristic goals moving forward?
Our future goals?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that we will continue to look at how we can play a role in college access, in college completion. But we are, really excited again about this new Common App for transfer and providing a vehicle to help with particularly with the 2-year to 4-year transfer, and being a thought leader in this college admission space, sharing an understanding of how we can better support diverse groups of students and increase the number of students who are not only applying to college, but also arriving on college campuses, staying there, and ultimately getting their post-secondary credentials.
Is there a dream number? I mean, it's amazing that you guys have 800 members at this time. Is there a dream number that Common App would like to have of member schools on board?
I don't believe that we target it that way. I think that we really want to make this process simpler for students, not more daunting and stress-inducing for students. And so if we can provide, a vehicle to help them with this process, not just with the application, but also just with the supports and the resources, certainly I don't know one student who would not want to only have to go to one place to fill out an application instead of having to go to 2 or 3 different places. So, it was very big, I will say, when the Common App, membership opened up, particularly for public institutions, just because, again, a lot of students are accessing the public state schools for various reasons, some being financial, and for us to be able to provide, to help connect students as well with these member colleges. I think that has been really great. But I don't think that we're shooting for a particular number.
Yeah, but I think the goal of making things, the lives of students simpler is a really great goal. So out there. Yeah. So some people may say that Common App is the driving force for low admission rates, record number of applications keep on being reported every year. And some people say this is maybe adding more stress for students than not. How would you respond to those statements?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mentioned earlier that what we see in the application is students, even though, again, they can add up to 20 schools in their applications, that we're only seeing students applying to, on average, 5 institutions. So we're not seeing that just because students can add more that they are. We still feel that students are taking advantage of their outside resources and counseling and doing their homework to figure out what makes the most sense for them in terms of putting together their college lists. And that, again, what we're finding is not that excessive amount of applying.
No, and I know through my years of experience, I've had students who've given me some lists of colleges, and they're hardworking students, and they never thought maybe they could go to this really challenging school, and it was a lot easier of a conversation to consider that. And it could be very scary, especially if you're the first person in your family going to college. And it was a lot easier for them to choose to add on a school and then get admitted to it and couldn't believe it. Or other students wanting to make sure that there's a balanced list of affordable schools and options too. So I know a lot of people say kids are just checking the box, but there is a thought process behind that, and even more reason why colleges put those member-specific questions too. So I've seen Common App open more doors than close doors, and that's why we appreciate you guys so much. And we know that you guys are always constantly working with other organizations. You're very live in social media, like on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. You're really pushing the, hashtag Common App Ready. As you mentioned earlier, you work with ScholarSnap and Strive for College. So what other organizations like the College Board, Khan Academy, ACT, has Common App been working with them to help expand more of those resources for students to get help? Because there's so many out there that I think a lot of students and families are now aware about, like free test prep, understanding more about financial aid. So could you elaborate that more for our students?
Sure. Like you mentioned, there are many great organizations out there doing a lot to help increase